stuff away, and we'd eat an MRE right on our packs, and we wouldn't do anything for 3 hours because we'd be waiting for the sun to come up. So hurry up and wait. I think that gets a lot of people. I'm trying to think. Being over there, we all knew why we were in Iraq. We all knew, the pretenses to the war, whether or not you agree with them or not. We really didn't care. We were told to go do a mission. So I wouldn't say that is. I mean, there were some kids that were really politically inclined that you could tell had a problem with the war, and but wouldn't really open up about it. And then there were some guys that were, they didn't care. They didn't care. They were Marines. They were supposed to do what they were going to do, and so I wouldn't say that was one of the biggest things. I think when I first started out in the Marine Corps, just getting used to a different lifestyle, getting used to getting yelled at, even if it's for something I didn't do, but my buddy to the left did, and getting punished for it. It was a new concept. I mean, I kind of saw that in football. Like, if a few people were late to practice, everyone would get punished, but it's on a whole different scale in the Marine Corps. It's not high school football anymore. It's it's a pretty institutionalized fighting force, and they take everything pretty seriously. So it's just that, and it felt different from my friends when I came home, and I know it's probably just myself, but even from training, I felt different. Luckily, I went to Norwich University, and so I was a military academy.
Yeah.
And so when I came home from the war, transitioning wasn't that bad. I instead of going to a place that the American public, I would venture to say, is a pretty unpopular war, and if I could imagine it being a lot different if I came back and went to a school like UMass Amherst or someplace with like a little bit more liberal agenda, liberal populist. But when I came back to school, I think going back to a military academy was probably the healthiest thing that could have happened, because instead of coming back to a place where people were like, oh, I'm sorry you had to go over there, or don't go over there again, to kids that revered me for it, or at least like gave me credit and respected it, which was cool. Transitioning was hard though when I first came home, because it's like when you're in the reserves, you get activated for a year, and they bring you home and they do a good job of, they call it decompression training, but I mean that makes you more amped up mentally anyway, because they take you home. You're with the way transportation works today, it's not like in World War II or Korea or even Vietnam where your tour duty's over, you're on a ship for a month, coming back, it's like, hey, we're leaving, get on a plane, and literally 24, 36 hours later you're back in the United States, and you're just looking back like, wow, what just happened? And so we went out to Camp Pendleton out in California, and they kept us on the base for a week. We weren't allowed to leave the base, so we had to be around Marines, and they kind of do it to see if there's any psychological problems within the ranks, and then they'll let us out for a day. Like, so you leave, they'll let us go at like 6, and you come back at 12, so you actually get to go and see the real world again, so just in small doses, and then finally, they give you a couple of days off, and then we flew home, and they released us, and it was just, 6 months ago, I was out patrolling around with a machine gun in 120-degree weather, and then, like, within a month later, I was, when our tour duty was done and we were back home, I'm back on the Cape, just sitting at home with the dogs and my dad and playing video games, and I'm just like, wow, what just happened? So it kind of took a while to catch up with me, and I mean, a lot of guys that I was friends with had serious problems, whether it was, with the law or drugs and alcohol, and I mean, that happened, not so much drugs, but definitely the alcohol. I was kind of stir crazy because I didn't start school until January. I got home right around November 1st. They let us off for a month, and then officially we were done the 1st of December. And so just being home, and all my friends from like school and stuff were away at school, so it was kind of like a lonely experience. I couldn't really identify. I mean, my old man was cool because like, he was in Vietnam and he saw a lot more combat than I did. And so I mean, I could talk to him when I needed to. But other than that, I felt alone. Just like at my house. So that was tough. I mean, that was really tough. But after a while, it goes away, and you deal with your stuff and you process it. You think about a lot of the stuff that happened, and there's a lot of things that you Monday morning quarterback. You said, maybe I should have done that, this guy wouldn't have got hurt, or this wouldn't have happened, and it just eats at you a little bit. But after a while, you just kind of you get over it, and you think about it, and you kind of, whether you're religious or not, that comes into play. It's just like the old adage goes, time cures everything, and it does. I mean, there's still stuff that I struggle with today, but no, it could be a lot worse. So I think any human being that's a human, that has feelings of, sympathy and regret and whatever, and you put them in a war zone where you're put in a position to take another human's life or see people die or get hurt or just the carnage of war. I think anyone that's a real human is gonna not be right. It's gonna be a little bit different afterwards. And I don't care how tough people say they are and how much of a Marine they are, or how much the whole machismo of like being in the service, like deep down inside, if they're a real person and they're not a sociopath, they're gonna have some issues that they need to deal with, and whether or not they put on a facade or a front about how they're tough and they don't need to talk to anyone. I can tell you right now, I've seen it all, and that's not the case. So,
do you still feel disconnected from society?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, like I said, going back to Norwich was the best thing that could have happened to me. I feel like even though a lot of those kids up there didn't deploy or see combat or go overseas, there was definitely enough that did, that I connected with, and even just the kids that were just in the regiment and the Corps cadets up there. There's just like there's a certain kind of mentality that is instilled, and I felt really close to a lot of my friends, and I still am today. My Norwich guys are my best friends. I see them all the time. I was out with them, not last night, but the night before. And they understand, they get it, because they come from military families, or they've been there, or they're in now, and stuff. So I definitely feel connected with them. But I'm pretty disgusted with civilian life. Yeah. I mean, it's no offense, but I mean, there's just the materialism in our society, and the greed and whatnot and people sweating the small stuff. It's not people's fault either, and I got to take that into account. I can't always just be so cynical about it. But when you see the other side of humanity and like how good we have it and whatnot, even I catch myself even complaining about stuff that I swore I'd never complain about. But yeah, I do feel a little disconnected in that aspect. But in the other side of that as well, I'm super happy to be home still. And I take advantage of what I took for granted before, and I realize what I have. I'm just a very thankful person. So.
What is your darkest memory of battle?
There's a few. One of them didn't really involve combat at all. This is the one thing that really kind of got to me at first. We were out, a lot of the times we would do like combat patrols, so we're all mounted up in trucks, and we're going around waiting for someone to shoot at us, and then taking it from there. It was a defensive posture, and I didn't really agree with it, but that's how it had to happen, because we were more of an occupying force there. One mission we went out on, we did a lot of humanitarian stuff, so we bring food and water to like schools, school supplies and whatnot. And there was a guy, and I guess, I mean, I don't know how accurate this is, because it's word of mouth, but what I was told by the Iraqi soldiers is the gentleman that we went to go see was one of Saddam Hussein's top chemical weapons engineers under, you guys remember the deck of cards that they had with all the wanted Iraqi leaders? So the guy, Chemical Ali, he was in charge of like the chemical weapons program in Iraq, and I guess this guy was like one of his lieutenants, like right under him. A really smart guy. I think he was educated in Europe, and he, during the late 90s, when Saddam Hussein was revamping his military and trying to push the limits of the peace accords from 91 and whatnot, he pretty much, I guess, he'd had it, and he defected to Belgium and went to Europe. And in the early 2000s, when the whole WMD shenanigans were going on, and he, Saddam Hussein somehow contacted him and said, "Hey, we need you, come back, yada yada yada, like you'll be fine, like we're not going to punish you at all." And I guess the guy flew back, and his wife was pregnant with a baby, and I guess he tortured her, like his family, like his younger daughter and stuff. And I don't know what happened, but basically he ended up giving birth to two like mentally handicapped girls, and they're beautiful little kids, but they're just like disfigured like beyond belief, like with their hands, and they couldn't stand up, but like normal head, like normal torso, but their limbs